guys, today we're going to be doing something I've wanted to do for a very long time. It's going to be the ultimate PC build guide, everything that you can do about a PC. I wanted to do this last time I built it because it was the first time I ever built a PC but now I've built quite a few, some with liquid cooling, and I've done it all on my own, so I feel like I know a thing or two. This is also a video linked in with my eBay build that I'm doing right now, because some of these parts are used, some are new. So this is what we're going to be looking at first. What do you need to build a PC? Is 5 major things. 1 is a case. 2, a motherboard. 3, a motherboard compatible CPU. So if you're getting a new Intel based chip, they're using a new socket, which is I think 1200, something like that. Either way, Intel boards we're using are EVGA 1151 for the most part for the last 4 or 5 years now. The one thing that we're going to be sticking with, and the things that I've been using for a very long time, is Ryzen or AMD. Right now you can use a couple different boards with some AMD based chips. You have the AMD, you have the B350, B450, and B550. I think just are coming out in a few days here. But basically right now, if you're going to be building something on a budget, I would be using any B350 or B450, which I've only mainly messed around with B450 based motherboards, which will support any of the AMD Ryzen chips for the most part. So basically the way I test out, you can see the kind of motherboard that you're looking for. I would mainly stick right now, if you're going for budget, a B450 to B350 based motherboard, and it can pretty much use any of the latest AMD Ryzen chips up till Gen 2, which is pretty much for the Ryzen 7 2700X, which I do believe was the last one, besides the Ryzen 5 1600AF and all those other different chips. Mainly, we're going to be sticking, you can kind of go B350, B450, and stick with any of the main Zen 1. If you go anything from the Ryzen 7 2700X down, that will be compatible with B350 and B450 motherboards. And once you've had the motherboard, the CPU is based on what you want. So I've always gone for more cores and more threads, but Ryzen, of course, is more affordable now than ever before. Ryzen 5 2600s can be found on the internet for around $120 used. Brand new, I think they're about $160 to $170 used or new. I went with the Ryzen 5 2600 non-X variant, which the X gives a little slight performance boost in terms of core clocks and maximum boost frequency. Basically, if you don't know what those mean, gigahertz is basically what you can utilize your gaming or functionality with that processor. So if you have a Ryzen 5 2600, you're having a core frequency of 3.4 gigahertz and a maximum of, I do believe, 3.9 without looking at it. It has 6 cores, so it can utilize up to 6 cores. More cores usually mean more performance in certain things. More games were requiring more cores. 6 cores is what I've just kind of used the basis on now. You can use a quad core, you can use a duo, but duos are gonna be definitely stressing out your game if it's more CPU intensive. The more cores, the better your performance, usually. More cores, more threads. Gigahertz is also another one. Intel is usually better with gaming, of course, because they have a better, some games just run better with Intel. I mean, you can see that with the new Intel chips that are close to the 20 or 37 or 3600X or whatever it is, around the same price range, and the Intel outperforms it a little bit in games. Other, of course, if you're doing editing and other things, the Ryzen far surpasses Intel in multiple categories. So me personally, being a YouTuber, I use Ryzen. Never really messed with an Intel-based system except for the garbage PC, which I'll link up here as well, where we basically tested a PC we got out of the dumpster that had dual GPUs. Found in the dumpster, we tested it out, and it wasn't very good. Because mainly I think we were bottlenecked with our graphics cards. So, in that terms, Intel isn't been a bad thing for me, but it could be better for you if you're just a gamer. I personally, we use Ryzen, more cores, more threads, cheaper, and comes with a built-in cooler and a bunch of other stuff. The fourth thing would be graphics card. Graphics card is very important, especially if you're gaming. using AutoCAD, basically anything. Most editing softwares are using GPU-based rendering to increase the rendering time of your computer. So mainly the hot ones that I personally went for when I was building my first PC was RX 580 8GB. So basically the gigabytes are utilizing virtual memory RAM, which will let your textures be cleaner, crisper, and look better than most other cards. You can check out the card's performance if you don't want to go through a bunch of YouTube videos by typing in a graphics card like the RX 580 versus a 980 Ti, for example. And they'll actually show you a list of graphics cards in performance-based levels with certain games determining shadow-based rendering, frames per second in certain games. You can actually look up per games per capita and see if you're playing Minecraft, are you going to benefit from an RX 580 or are you going to benefit from a 980 Ti? So mainly that's a good way to start. Mainly there's a lot of good competitors. Of course, AMD, not the top of the food chain when it comes to graphics card, but per dollar and performance value. NVIDIA, they have higher performance, but they have CUDA cores, ray tracing on certain other graphics cards. Personally, with this build on the eBay, I actually upgraded my personal rig to a 1078 gigabyte, which I got for like 200 bucks. Not a bad price, and the only reason I went for that is because NVIDIA, with their cards, have an NVENC encoder, which will help you with streaming, recording, all that stuff, and has some pretty cool features that I like that I wish AMD had. We'll have a follow-up video to that, what my switch from AMD to NVIDIA is in the future. So if you guys like that, please like and subscribe. So now, once you do that, power supply is basically whatever you want. You must have to look at your case to see what kind of power supply it could and could not have. Like certain cases, if you have a micro ATX case that might use a certain type of micro ATX power supply, which is slimmed down, stuff like that. There is different types of power supplies. There is non-modular, which all the cables are connected, so you can't take out and put new cables in. The most cheaper power supplies are all-in-one. You have all the essentials, and also all of them are still connected, so you have to better cable manage your back of your PC. In terms of if you have a semi-modular, which there's only a couple of cords are on there that you need, usually a 24-pin connector for the motherboard, which we'll talk about later, so don't freak out if I'm throwing weird words at you. A 24-pin power connector, usually an 8 or 4-pin for the CPU power, maybe a graphics card, and of course SATA for your hard drives and stuff like that. And that could depend if you want 80 plus white, 80 plus bronze, 80 plus platinum. Those just determine on energy efficiency. I've used 80 plus white for the last almost a year. I have an 80 plus bronze we're using in this build here. So don't freak out if you're not sure. That just determines on what you want. And of course, usually the go-to for me is an EVGA based one. They have a 10-year warranty or 5-year, something like that. Thermaltake is another good one that have really good warranties, stuff like that. Yes, RAM is something you'll want. Of course, you need RAM for a system, which usually the standard is 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, which you can throw in RGB and pay $20 more for just some extra bling. When I first built my PC, I didn't think I wanted RGB RAM, so I went with DDR4 3200, just non-RGB RAM. And when I ended up buying the Facebook PC, which there's a lot of links to all this PC stuff. It's a huge passion. So I have a lot of stuff. So there was a PC we built on Facebook that was a super good deal, had a really good graphics card and all this stuff. And I took the RAM out of his computer and put it into mine. And I thought it looked cool. I had RGB fans in my computer, all that cool stuff. So obviously I wanted something cool to happen with my PC, and I've kind of been a fan of RGB ever since. It's not a necessity, but if you wanted it, it's 20 bucks more usually, depending on what kind you want. 16 gigabytes is usually the average, and usually the ones that a lot of people go for are G-Skill. But if you want the IQ sync with if you're buying a Corsair Corsair mouse or a Corsair keyboard, there's an iQ software that will actually link all of your RAM and stuff together to make it synchronize and stuff like that. If you really care that much, there is that option as well. And of course, storages are up to you too. Usually I go with an SSD for a boot up or operating system. You can find Kingston SSDs for about 20 bucks. Right in there, 128 to 240 gigabyte SSD, and you can plug that in. Either it's a SATA, you can find NVMe SSDs too for pretty cheap nowadays. One for a boot up for your operating system, one for a boot up for your games. I personally use a hard drive for my games and stuff, which some people might scowl me for, but I think mechanical hard drives are the cheapest and best way to store a lot of footage and stuff like that. And then an SSD for your operating system. Other than that, pretty much your PC is built. You have your hard drive, you have your CPU, your motherboard, your graphics card, your power supply, your case. Basically, there's a lot of things that go into a case. There's other extras on top of that, like if you wanted a better monitor and stuff like that. But right now, we're just going to stick to the main PC components, which are the ones previously stated. Now that you know what you want, how are you going to start building it? Today we're going to be doing a couple cool parts. We're doing a micro ATX build, which micro ATX is a smaller form factor. There's a full ATX, which is just your basic run-of-the-mill, motherboard and all that stuff. It's something big, but now that I'm getting to that point, I want something smaller, a little bit form factor, maybe even cooler. We have the Corsair 280X. It's kind of a big old boy, and it's something I've been eyeing ever since I saw this damn thing. I saw it, and I saw it when I was helping my friend build a PC not too long ago, and never ended up buying the PC. And I saw this case, which is originally like 150 bucks, found it for $100 on B&H, which was a freaking fantastic deal. Could not want it. So I got this bad boy, the 280X. Of course, we had to get a micro ATX motherboard, so I found one on eBay for I think 90 bucks. B450 Aorous M, which I've used the B450 Aorous boards before, so it should be quite handy. Also, got ourselves AMD 2600 from Ryzen, AMD. And this is the 2600 non-X variant, and it comes with a heat sink and all that stuff. It actually is still taped together, and I bought this thing quote-unquote used, but it's new, which is weird. 32 gigabytes. Trident RGB Ram, that's 32 gigs. Got us some SATA cable and some thermal paste for our CPU, because if it is used, we need thermal paste. Most AMD Ryzen chips, if you buy new, will not need more thermal paste, as the heat sink that comes with them are thermal paste already applied. The only thing that haven't arrived is the graphics card and of course the power supply, which don't really need to be installed till later, honestly. We also have hard drives coming sometime today as well, so those aren't necessary until later as well. So let's get into the build for now, and I'll show you how to install everything, what comes with it, what to expect. I love the thrill of building a PC. There's nothing better than building a PC, in my personal opinion. Start off with the motherboard. Open it up. This one did not come with an I/O or a NVMe SSD heat spreader / lock-in mechanism, which you can sometimes expect from pre-owned motherboards. So, a little thing to note here, and for socket, these are, on the motherboard, these are your PCIe 16 slots, which is basically 16, and these are where your graphics cards will go, or you can get SSDs that will go in these. These are usually for network cards, or for, in my example, is actually where my capture card will go. These are for front audio, see LED, RGB. This right here at the end on this motherboard, it shows PLED, power, speaker, stuff like that. These are where usually a lot of the ones inside the case will go. So, like I said, power, reset, hard drive, stuff like that. That's where a lot of that stuff's going to go. These are where you're going to plug your SATA cables if you have a hard drive, SSD. This is where your 24-pin power connector goes. Right up here you have another LED, system fans. Of course you have, this is where your CPU fan's going to go for your CPU when you plug in your Ryzen built-in fan. You also have another fan up here for system fans, 8-pin power connector for your CPU. Stuff like that on the inside. Speakers, 3.1 USBs down there, HDMI in, VGA cable, and of course speaker and some other USB type stuff. Lots of stuff on this board. This lever comes up, and you want to make sure this lever is up, and then when you're going to put the CPU in down. We're going to take these brackets off because this is what we're going to need to put our heatsink onto our CPU. Let's take these brackets off because we're going to need to use it. You don't need some fancy screw. We only use hand tools to take this stuff apart. Very fragile stuff. Somewhere to keep the screws too. I like to use like the microstatic bag or throw it inside the box. Now when you lift this up, that will come off. You'll want to use that for the CPU fan. There's a little box inside. You see the thermal paste has been scratched off from the heat sink. That means that we have to put some thermal paste on the CPU, which we will do like now, but here we are. Which is a little arrow on the top. For you guys, it will be, if you're looking at the motherboard straight, it's at the top left-hand corner will be that little tiny arrow right there. Now, there is a little arrow on the CPU, which you'll see right there. You'll want to match this arrow with that arrow on the CPU block. So, if you do this, you're going to flip the arm back, of course, all the way up. Set. See, once you put it on there, it should just fall in gently like that. Shouldn't feel any movement. Put it down. And give it a little wiggle. It's good. That is the CPU being in place, just like that. Now, the heatsink can go on, but you will need to put on thermal paste, which we have in a box right over here. So now, you can put a little dab like that. That's probably a little much, but that'll be good enough for now. Little pea-sized dab like that, and then you put the heat spreader on there like so. These go in only a certain way, which will go in like this. You want to line up the holes. You can even press down if you want a little bit. Like so. Once the holes are lined up, you can actually pull up and see how the job we did underneath was. So that's probably a little much, but that's okay. You want to make sure your holes are lined up. Start in a corner fashion like this. You want to start here, and then start over here, then here, and over here, and slowly tighten them in at the same time. So I'll show you a demonstration here. Put it in. Get a couple turns. Once you hear a click, go to the other side here. Then we have to go a couple turns down. Make sure it actually goes in. Sometimes holding the bottom will help it go in. That one went in. There we go. We got all four in. I'm going to work on all sides. No, not too tight. Basically to the point where they stop spinning a little bit, or they stop crunching in. I don't know. That's probably a good place to start, as long as you can pick it up and it not fall off. What we're going to do with this is there is a label right here on the label. It'll say CPU fan right here. Right here, right above the RAM slots, CPU fan. So you want to look at that, see how it comes in. There's usually a little ticker. That ticker will line up with that ticker, so that'll be a good indication so you don't bend the fans. It should just slide right in. Bam, we got the CPU fan in. Easy. Unbox us some Trident Z RGB Ram. It's 32 gigs and 3200 megahertz, which will be quite sufficient, probably more than what we need. The RAM. Now, you want to take a look at this RAM here, because basically where the RAM goes on these slots here, there's a little groove inside of the RAM. A little groove right in the middle there, pretty much. You want to make sure you line this up on the motherboard here. So, we turn this to the right. See, there's a little slot here. Well, I'm assuming dual channel is probably going to be this one and this one. We can always check out the manufacturer's motherboard, but you want to make sure you're putting these in the correct spots. Not that it really matters. Oh boy, that's not fun. I have to turn this thing around, or is this just... Yeah, we might have to turn this thing around to put our RAM in. I did not think about that. Okay, now I put the RAM in. Keep an eye. This is where it matters. Now I can put the juice going right now. Yep, and then push down. Bam. Once you hear both sides click in, that's when you'll know it's in. So open it up. Line the pins in. G-skill facing down. Put it into the slots here. And push down once you know that you have it right. Yep. And bam, it's in. We got 32 gigs in this bad boy. So now we're working on unboxing this beast of a case. It's the Corsair 280X. The mini ITX case. I've wanted this thing for a very, very long time. This is the box. Let's open this bad boy up. Instruction manual. And there it is. Oh, yes. This case is actually pretty light. So this is the Corsair, baby. This is the case it's going into. Damn, is she beautiful. Woo. Yeah. Damn, this is nice. Got a little top plate. Got two fans in here, which we'll look at a little later. Gonna open this bad boy up here real quick. Oh, hot swap bays. Take this off. Hard drive, baby. What's actually in here? Standoffs, torque wrench. Oh yeah, everything the cable manage. Let's go. That's so sick. Hot swap SSDs. There's 3 of these things in here, which I don't know of a micro ATX case that has that many SATA connectors. This only has 2, so beautiful. We'll leave the plastic wrap on for a while till we get the PC fully built. And bam, we get a look on the inside here. Magnetic filters as well. This is the back plate. Usually what comes in the case is just connections for your USBs and that kind of stuff. So right now it has this big boy right here, which is the fat guy. Usually is a USB 3.0 header. Also, this is a little label right here. HD audio. Your power reset switches, they're all right here. I don't like these coming out here, although some people might. That's just depending on you. That where these standoffs go indicate with your motherboard, which are these little pegs. See, these ones have IM, M. So what that really means is these are for ITX motherboards, and these are for just regular micro motherboards. Pretty freaking sure. Because right here, there's 6 pins and 6 pins. On a micro ATX board, there is 1, 2 up, and that pretty much looks like it's going to go there. So we're going to get that done. Of course, we bought this this motherboard with no I/O. So usually you put the I/O shield right here, just clips right in. For this video, we're not going to use the I/O. Pretty straightforward how to put in, but we're going to plop this bad boy into the right spots here. What I like to do is find the top little pin and just follow it up with these holes, and then make sure all the holes are in place. See, that's how that's kind of crooked. Get that in there. Once you do that, they should just fall right into place. Obviously, you have to screw it in, and this is going to look hunky-dory with this just kind of popping out like that, but we'll address that later. Looking pretty good so far. Now we're going to look at the cables here inside the computer, because that's the next step. Looking at the cables. This right here, even on the cable, even though it doesn't indicate, will show USB bus 3.0, which could be a 1 cord. This in this case has 2 USBs on the front top here. So one way you can find out USB 3.0. So you just take that, make sure the top mount matches with this top mount, and it's fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Just literally put it in. Voila, it's in. Just like so. So right here we got the power LED plus and minus. We're gonna plug that into the power LED plus and minus on there. On the right will be the power, which shows on the motherboard here, power switch. So we're going to actually plug this in first. That's the 2 to the right on the configuration down there on the motherboard. You can also check this out on the motherboard's website. You can also go on, pretty much anything. Now we're going to do power LED plus and minus. On the motherboard, it shows plus on the left, minus on the right. So we're going to go plus right here, plus on the left, minus on the right. And minus on the right. Okay, now all we have left is the reset switch. And then it'll say RES plus and minus down there. It only usually goes in one way. There's no minus or negative on the power switch that I can see, so it's just going in straight to the top. And that's 2 over, so it's going to go right underneath the power switch. Bam! We're all plugged in. We'll leave it good for now because we're fully done with everything so far. We will be getting a graphics card and a power supply coming in the mail very soon. So stay tuned, or as in Magic YouTube land, now.
72 hours later.
Hey guys, it's me. It's 3 days later, and I look like a bum. I'm sorry. I didn't feel like getting all crazy for this video. Today, we're going to be putting in a hard drive, power supply, and a graphics card to see if this thing actually boots up. So, first thing I want to show you guys how to do is how to put in your hard drive. So as you look on the front of the hard drive, there is a little slot and this one right here. The big slot is going to be used for a power cable on your power supply. The small one is going to be where the SATA cable comes in, which is this guy right here, which you can find pretty cheap online. Match this L, the small one right here, with the small L here. Should just clip in like that. Now what you're going to do with this is take a look at your motherboard. The motherboard on the inside has these two here and these two here. Well, actually there's 4 here total. 4 should be pretty standard nowadays. What's cool is that this case has hot swap hard drives. So you can actually put a hard drive in like so, like this, press down, and the hard drive can be easily swapped. Slide the little cord through here first. Then it can easily be swapped out in and out later. Which is something I've always actually wanted. Not that it really matters. Here to where our SATA cables are, which is either here or here in the motherboard. We're actually going to plug these in one of the first SATA slots here. Should just click in like that. Now, this is where your cable management is going to come in. This is my EVGA power supply we just got, and this is going to be, this is basically a replacement that we're going to be getting. If we look at this here, these cables are what is necessary to power the machine. These ones are just optional. You're going to want to do this area, for example, sometimes they mostly lay flat. This one's going to lay this way. Your power supply will be facing most likely this way. You can face it this way if you really want to, but for this case's sake, we're going to turn it this way so we can pull air through this way. So I put it this way. Like so, like that. Then you're going to use 4 screws. Sometimes the power supply comes with it. Since this is a replacement, it's most likely going to be included with our motherboard that came with this. Mount in right there. There's some holes that will usually give you a general idea on where to put that thing. So, usually I start with the top left. So this one, for example, would be probably beneficial because it is kind of high. So we're going to put this one right here. I should just screw in just like that. Now just repeat these steps till the power supply is fully connected. In this little power supply bundle we have gotten, you see there's a couple different cords here. This one will most likely be used for a power supply. These will be used for this is an 8-pin, so there's 8 pins. They're also labeled CPU. This one are labeled PCIe, which is most likely used for graphics cards. There's also a second one here if yours requires an 8-pin and 6-pin power connector. This is the 24-pin, so 20 plus 4, which is 24-pin, which will plug on the main driver of your motherboard. This 24-pin down here is going to go right in this slot right up here. There's only one way to put it in, so there's no right or wrong way. So, like so. See, if you go to try and put this 4-pin in, it's backwards. So it goes in like this. And it should firmly put it in. Double check, make sure all the connections are plugged in all the way. The 8-pin is right up here. Usually that's where it is located most of the time. I'm going to try and do this without getting in your guys' way. It's just going to go in one way. And, oh, Jesus. And this one is pushed in all the way. Look at the back side here. We're going to probably just zip tie this right here. See where there's a lot of rivets and holes. We're just going to zip tie this pin back here. We're probably going to actually grab the 24 pin too. And this last one will be for the graphics card, which we'll plug in here in a second. And we'll go through the front and plug into our graphics card. Right now, my 1070 hasn't even shipped yet from eBay, which is unfortunate. We will need to grab some of the storage cables, so I'll be right back. So like I said, this is a semi-pump modular, so all of your cables will not be included that you may need with the main power supply. This one, showing SATA on the label, will go into the SATA ports on the power supply. Plug in right there. Now inside the motherboard, or inside the hard drive here, they have that secondary slot. This is the power connector for the SATA, which we can just, it's the top slot in the hard drives. This L is going to go into this bigger L on the hard drive. So we just plug that in like so. So the SATA for your hard drive is configured. Got to make sure that you plug this back in, or else you'll be powering a hard drive that's not even connected to the motherboard. Alright, so what we've done, we put my SSD in here to make sure this thing boots up. We got the RAM. I didn't put back in there quite yet, but I will. This is pretty much all cleaned up. But now we have my RX 580 in the RAM, which we're going to re-put back into this thing. Just got to put the graphics card, which we're going to use my 580 since my 1070 hasn't shipped. I'm going to put the RAM back in. I'll show you guys how to put the GPU back in since I've already showed you how the RAM. So let's get into it. So this right here is the graphics card. This is the RX 580 X5 or XFX 8GB variant. Very good ass card, but I got to show you guys something. Before we install this, we have these little side panels here, which we must take off before installing our graphics card right here. So for this one, you have to unscrew these. Sometimes you can do it with your hands, sometimes you can do it with other things. Sometimes these things are kind of a pain. This flips down like this. Now these things on the inside are basically going to line up to where your graphics card PCIe slot are. Most cards are high profile, so you just need to take two of these out. Some crappier motherboards or cases, you have to break off. It won't come off as easy as that will, so just bear that in mind. Now we're just going to basically pull the lever back on the motherboard. So pull this lever back, put the graphics card into that slot, facing these outputs facing in. You're going to line that up basically like you have with the RAM. Once it's in there, press down, and that's in. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty damn easy. Now, you have two screws that you can put in here to make sure the graphics card is mounted correctly. These actually have spots on the motherboard for system fans. This one will go right here. Puts in right like the CPU. This is far in the future. I just forgot to add it in. There's a system fan there. It's a 3-pin, so it's not going to be able to control the speed. But goes in underneath there. I'm actually going to have to probably pull out the CPU just to get it in there. Now you plug those in just like the motherboard. System fan 1 and 2 for these two coolers. So now all you have to do is plug in the 8-pin power connector for the graphics card. On this one, this is only a 6, so the 8-pin is this one right here. And we're going to plug this into the graphics card header right there. Goes in with clamp facing forward. Hey, you know this is the graphics card one because it'll say PCIe, which is the name of the slots on the motherboard, and you'll face that clip pointing this way. And can I get it in? Put it in. It's hard with one hand, but I got it in. It's working. I promise. It's not hard. So now you completed your system. You got your CPU in. You got your fans, CPU fan, RAM, storage, graphics card, power supply. Everything's in. Now, we'll do some other things. We'll show you how to install Windows 10 on your computer and then activate it if you don't want to buy a super expensive copy, which we'll show you pretty much right now. Let's just see if this system boots up and see how it goes. Alright, so we got plugged in. This is not the greatest sight in the world, as I have a bunch of other crap plugged into my old computer. This is the old system there. It's so much bigger than this mid. But, there's a lot of wires. The RGB are lit right up when I plug the system in. That's a good sign. Now, let's just see if it actually turns on and everything works properly. CPU turns on. Fans are spinning. Motherboard's checking things. CPU fan stopped. And it turned back on. So it does a couple of reboots before it does all this. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. We should see something on the picture here soon. Oh, there it is. Got a blue. Hey, it works! Woo! The bitch works. First try. Let's go. That means all of our stuff did work. Holy shit. It's reformatting to some few things, getting devices ready. Holy crap. It has my old OS on there right now, currently in the making of this video, because we do not have our SSD yet. Some of this stuff will not be available, as some of the games are all on the other hard drive. So, hell yes, it works. And yeah, still a lot of things can't launch because it is currently not on the system. Hell yes, it works. Woo! Alright, you guys have made it to the one of the last photo or part of the video, which is installing Windows 10 and making sure everything is running properly. So go to Google, go Windows 10 download tool. Once you go there, Microsoft.com. There's a disk image or download Windows 10 on Microsoft. You can update it to one of the newest drivers, which mine is up to date. You can see here, create Windows 10 installation media, and you'll need to download that now. You'll hit download tool now, and it will only take about less than a second. Once that's done, you can go to your downloads folder or wherever it went, or you can open it now. Media creation tool. You want to hit yes. Windows will launch. You can do this on pretty much anything. I tried doing it from a phone just in case some people didn't have a computer prior. So that's the one thing. You'll have to go to a friend's house or something, or have someone that has a media creation tool or a Windows 10 disk for you to be able to basically download this. That's the only downside to this. Basically, you'll read all these agreements. You would accept. If people are worried of their system, that might be, oh no, I don't want to delete my Windows 10, because right here in a second it will give you like a thing here. So now it says, what do you want to do? Upgrade this PC or create installation media? So you click create installation media, hit next. And then it's going to be 64-bit, Windows 10, and then English. Hit next. USB, it needs to be at least 8 gigabytes. Hit next. That one. Hit next. And you can continue using your PC while this downloads. I won't for the purpose of this video. Once it gets to 100, it will now verify the download, which you can also keep using your PC as well. Alright, once you get to the end, flash drive is ready. Hit finish, and now it is done. So now if you go to your ESD, there is a setup application, boot, and all that fun stuff. Even if there's stuff on this, it will get rid of everything on the flash drive. So just be warned that if you have this, everything will get deleted. Now to plugging it into the other computer and setting it up. Alright, so what happened, we've been AFK for a while. Today is June 24th, and basically we got an NVMe SSD which didn't work originally with our system. We plugged it in, didn't work. I don't even know if I ever got refunded for that, actually, now that I think about it. But went out and bought an ADATA 120 gigabyte SSD from Newegg. So now we're gonna plop that USB once you've plugged that in, and
if everything turns on correctly, which it should, if you've installed everything. So once you get your other mouse, you got to have a mouse and keyboard to boot this up. Once you press the power button, you're going to mash F12 or delete, depending on your motherboard. You might want to look inside your motherboard manufacturer if you don't have one. Just mash F12 or delete. All right, we got it. So it sees that we have the PNY, a partition, and a 1 terabyte hard drive, data. Now that we chose our USB, it should just boot up there now. It's loading in. Now it will take us to a boot screen. English. Choose any English type you want or language. Press install now. Setup will start. You don't have to have a key for this, but you can activate one later. See, we'll say activate your key, and then press. I don't have a product key. Click on it. You choose what Pro you or check one you want. We usually just go with Windows 10 Pro, more features, stuff like that. Hit next. And then it'll show you accept. You'll definitely want to read all this, not really. And then custom install. You want to go to your SSD, which is 118 gigabytes. Not 120. You don't get your full 120 worth. You'll hit new or next on the 120. That's what our hard drive is. So now it'll just get the whole thing ready for you. And you can sit here, play on your phone, work on YouTube projects. Like me, I have my other computer over here. So I could just play on this computer. I have another computer too over there. So computers everywhere. Oh, shit. It's getting ready. I didn't even pay attention. So you're playing on your phone, and all of a sudden, your computer's done. And then this is where you're going to start setting up your computer. I'm trying to get my stuff out of the way here. I'll say, wait just a moment. Windows is getting set up. A bunch of other stuff. Now, for me, I'm going to sell this computer. So I don't want to add a bunch of my personal information in here. We're in the United States. You choose your nope, skip. Want to connect to your internet provider. If you don't choose, I don't have an internet, you click there. Okay, next. Now we have some important setup to do. There's a lot of loading and waiting and loading and waiting to set up a computer. It's probably the most boring part of your computer probably so far. Well, we're going to set it up for personal use. You can create an account or do an offline account for the time being. We're just going to do an offline account. Once you let you use an online account, want to turn all this stuff off because we don't really need it. Advertising ID, tailored experiences, diagnostic data, location, accept. More devices. No. We don't want anything to let Cortana. No. These are my personal preferences. If you're going to use Cortana and assistances and send your data back to Microsoft, then go ahead and go that way. I personally don't really care. So now you just gotta wait yet again. Almost there. Yay. Alright, we're in Windows. So one thing I recommend everybody do is get the latest drivers. So one thing you want to do is Aorous B450 Pro Wi-Fi. And it's revision 1. Click on that. You want to find support. See, Realtek just got installed, which is good. And Realtek HD, do believe it's going to be the newest one, which is the 10th of December. Click download here. Save. And then let it go. Oh, I need 7-zip, which it already automatically comes with. That's sweet. So once it's 7-zip does it, it installs the HD definition audio drivers and stuff like that. So let it run, let it run. We're gonna move my face cam over here now. We're gonna restart it. Now, the next time you want to boot in, now that you know for sure you can boot in, mash F12 to make sure all your settings are correct. You can also use the BIOS to overclock. I don't know why it does that sometimes. So, right here you can check your frequencies, temperatures, voltage, frequencies on the memory. What I always like to do is go over to BIOS and double check a couple things. Here you have advanced frequency settings, advanced memory settings. Double check to make sure these are the correct one. This you want to change off auto. Apparently there are only 3,000 skewed memories, so it's stuck at 3,000. Want to make sure you're getting the most out of your memory as well. The SSD should make it pretty quick boot times. We'll time it, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's done. Oh, sometimes first time setups are different. And we're in. So yeah, we got the drivers now, but now whatever graphics card you have, right now I have an RX 580 in here. Do RX 580 drivers. And it should be the first one. It's the Radeon software, Windows 10, 64-bit. We're gonna move my face back up here. And be the first one. Released on April 2nd. Download and run. Because your games will run kind of bad, especially when you don't have drivers located. Once this is going up here, you can also press Control-Delete, check Task Manager, double check it's making sure that we have all the proper memory and stuff. You go right here to more details. You can check performance. So it is 16 gigabytes at 16 gigabytes of memory, and it is running at 3,000 megahertz and dual channel. Make sure it's your Ryzen 5 2600 processor, hard drive, SSD. You know, running at 90. You know, all this write speed. This is the second disk, not doing anything. Wi-Fi going crazy. Graphics card, RX 580. So everything is working as properly. And make sure we have all the stuff in here. So now, once it's done, it will say Radeon Software Adrenaline 2020 Edition. And you want to install. You can do custom or express, doesn't really matter. This is just your graphics card driver, which is going to allow you to do recording, make sure your games are running optimally, stuff like that. So once you're done here, you press install, and it will be uninstalling Radeon software. That's weird. Okay, so it's installing, and you'll see some flickers here. It's all in good terms. Your graphics card is not pooping out already. It's just something that the thing does on its own. Alright, finish. Now we have the Radeon software. Now to activate the Radeon software, you're going to hit Alt and R at the same time on your graphics. It's a quick setup that you can do to play, capture, share, live stream, tune your hardware's performance, and browse. Usually I just quick setup and then go to gaming, continue, and bam, it's done. Now, you can check this at any time. You can also right-click the screen, go to AMD Radeon software, and it's automatically there. Go over here, set up games, do a couple cool things. One thing I always double-check is go to display settings. Make sure all this stuff is on. If you're using a different Hertz monitor, you're going to want to make sure you go to display and scroll down, go to advanced display settings. Mine's using the Elgato, which is a refresh rate of 60 frames. Display adapters. You can check over here. Adapter, monitor. Change that to 60 hertz. Apply. And keep. Okay. Now it's displaying at 60 hertz at 180 by 920. That was 1080 by 1920 by 1080. Pretty much that's it. From here, I guess, once you have your PC set up, is you take the next step, which is you download Steam, you can download Blizzard, do the games that want you do at the same games that you want to be able to play and stuff like that. So I mean, you want to download, Google Chrome is one of the things I recommend the most. Just type in Google Chrome and download stuff like that. Or just type in Google. And from there, I guess you're pretty much on your own. The PC is yours. You have the drivers to continue your gaming performance. And I guess you could download MSI Afterburner as well, which would help you overclock your graphics card if you wanted to do that, to squeeze out the most performance in your hardware. Of course, this does drain your computer's life expectancy. One thing I would always recommend is the Xbox Game Pass for PC, and it's really simple. It's really fun, honestly, too. And all you have to do is search, and you'll type in Xbox PC, and usually it brings it up. And right now, you can get your PC Game Pass for 1 month, and you can play all the sorts of PC games that you want. If we swap over to my PC real quick, I have all these games to play. You have Halo. I only play a certain amount, but I will have a video in the future with all these games that I recommend you have. You have Dishonored 2, The Outer Worlds, Halo, the Master Chief Collection, Age of Empires, all definite editions, games that aren't even coming out yet. No Man's Sky, Final Fantasy 15 with all DLCs, Alien Isolation, Into the Breach, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Ark, Gears Tactics, Minecraft Dungeons, Minecraft, and they have a lot of great games. And for PC Game Pass only, it's $5 a month, or I think it's $5.99 per month. You can usually get your first month free. And you get a lot of good games, a lot of games that you can play, test out your hardware, and it's a really fun experience. This is what I definitely recommend most people getting at first. There's Gears 5 Ultimate Edition, Gears 4, Gears Ultimate Edition, Gears Tactics. So pretty much any of the games that are coming out on Xbox One are also coming out for Xbox Game Pass. So definitely want to recommend and check those out when they come out, because I think it's actually just such fun to enjoy, and it gets you a lot of games for really cheap prices, and you can't beat cheap. So yeah, what do you guys think? If you guys are watching this, did you watch all the way to the end? I've been wanting to do a PC build guide for a long time, and this was actually a pretty exciting experience. This is probably a PC. I built a PC about a year ago and was going to do a PC building guide, and never ended up doing it. This year I ended up doing it, and I really enjoyed myself. I built basically 2 computers because I built the system you saw there. I ended up putting the 1070 and then swapping all the parts, my Ryzen 5 2600X into the new system, and then basically putting the other CPU into my old system, and I'm selling off the old system. That's essentially what I'm doing, and it totally is nice. I liked the new build a lot. It has a 1070 graphics card, and it's really nice. I didn't know it had RGB on it, which is a plus. I always like RGB stuff, and yeah, I want to do more tech videos in the future. We do a new tech review every Tuesday. So if you guys are interested, check those videos out in the links in the description, as well as at the end credits. We'll have a whole playlist of all the tech stuff. And we're going to have a lot of reviews on the other stuff here to come with this case. We already reviewed the fans. We did the review on the 1070. So guys, check them out in the links in the description. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little build guide. It's something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And now I finally did it from start to finish. We're going to have these in parts as well on the channel. So, like I said, stick tuned. And if you guys enjoyed, please smash like and subscribe for more builds in the future. Bye-bye.